Okay, so yeah, I will record this. Yeah, so for because there are going to be folks that want to do this later on. That's fine. Or repeat this session. So yeah, welcome to this class. I did this class here last year actually, and uh, just to say, yeah, when I was living in England, I used to work a lot with a teacher called Padma Darshini, who's a woman who lives in the north of England, and she actually taught me Yin Yoga. She introduced me to Yin Yoga. I think on a weekend in the Manchester Buddhist Centre around about 2000 or 2001, maybe probably 2000. And it was really exciting because I come from like an Iyengar background, which is very physical, very yang. I'd done a lot. I just done about a year and a half of Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga, which is that very dynamic yoga. And then she was doing these sessions on a weekend that we ran with Buddhists and yoga practitioners in the Manchester Buddhist Centre, which is a beautiful centre worth visiting, actually. And yeah, and in a way, I'm sort of grateful to her. So I just wanted to say that. But one of the things she used to do, which I thought was a really good idea, is the last classes of her year, because she used to teach in the Manchester Buddhist Centre. She'd do a whole week of candles and yin yoga. So I've got the candles. I know Johanna's got a few as well. I've also got a lot of lighting because I want you to be able to see me as well. But you could do this. You could turn the lights out and just have a few candles. You don't really need to look at each other as such. And yeah, in a way, we're gonna have plenty of space. So I wanted to extend the session out. So yeah, in theory, it's going to go up till sorry, seven. Let's see, 8 o'clock your time, well, the British time, and then it'll be 9 o'clock here. So it's like in theory, it's a 2 hour class. If you've got to go before, that's fine. What I'll probably do about 90 minutes in, we would have been winding down and we'll do some meditation. Okay, at the end, I'd like to do a sort of a Karuna Bhavana practice. Okay, so we're not going to be doing a lot of movement, a little bit. I am going to sprinkle in a little bit of movement because it can feel quite static doing just yin yoga. So I'll just do a very little bit of movement, but nothing too dramatic. And what I want you to start with is a bolster. We're going to put it across your mat. And ideally, you have some cushion. I mean, some people can take their head down to the floor, but I can't do that when I'm in. We're going to do lying over the bolster. So I think all the poses are going to be familiar. The sequence is always new because, as teachers, we mix up. Inevitably, we mix up a bit. And I'm going to keep quite a few layers on. So I'm going to keep my Nordic sweater. Apparently, this does come from North. It does actually come from the north. I think it's from Norway. But I did buy it in Plymouth, which is a sea town. Okay, I'm going to keep my socks on as well. So it's absolutely freezing here, and it's not very good heating. So you want to bring your feet together, and then we're going to lie back, and the shoulder blades are resting on the bolster. So you do need to bring the head onto some support to begin with. You might find you can remove the support behind the head after a while. And I suggest you just start with the arms out by the side, okay? So this is pretty intense upper back stretch. It's a chance to look at the ceiling. This is like a 400-year-old house, and all these patches, but anyway, you can't see that. And what we're going to do is just close the eyes actually once we've set it up. So as I said, I want to do this practice in a really slow way. So I'm going to lengthen out the poses. I lengthen out the timings. We're going to start off with a series of symmetrical shapes, which will help to bring a sense of centering into the body, because it's like we're working both sides of the body evenly, more or less. And I want you to scan down through the whole body, getting a sense of what's happening. You may feel, I mean, obviously, this is working into the upper back. So I'm going to talk quite a bit. That's kind of the way that I teach, I have to say. You're a talker. So do feel free to tune out and listen more carefully to your own body if I'm talking too much. So this is aiming to lengthen out or extend the upper spine, the thoracic spine. It's a really good pose if you're spending a lot of time at a desk, or for that matter, doing any kind of physical work which involves bending forwards, because this is lengthening out, stretching, opening you out in the opposite direction. Okay. And then if you're going to work into the legs, so you bring the feet together, um, the intention there is to do what we call butterfly shape or Konasana, bound angle shape with the legs. So this works into the inner leg. So again, it's a good area to work, create a bit of space across the front of the pelvis. And ideally, yeah, you're not feeling any, sometimes it's called like pinching, or you're not feeling any compression in the lower spine. So if that is the case, it might be that your bolster is too high. So you need a lower bolster. If you can't lower the bolster, what you can just lift, put a brick underneath or a folded blanket underneath the buttocks. That would take out the compression in the lower spine if that's the case. Okay. You can adapt this pose. Likewise, if you don't want to work the legs, you can extend the legs out or have the legs, soles of the feet on the floor, semi-supine position. And at the moment, we've got the arms at the side, releasing at the side. So shoulder height extended outwards in a T shape, as it's sometimes called. Tuning in with your shoulders. But for the first few years of my practice, like in the mid-90s, is when I really got into seriously practicing yoga. Doing my Iyengar training, I was in Newcastle, 95 to 97. I did this practice pretty much every day, this pose with some leg work strap with the strap because it was a really tight area, okay, across the groins, back to the legs. And it's a practice that's worked really well in the evening just to ease out. It's not very stimulating, it's quite restful. Open out the backs of the legs, open out the groins. So I'd like us to get a sense of the whole body. So we're going to touch into these 5 aspects of awareness. We can become aware of the whole body. And as we've been doing, becoming aware of specific areas, specific sensations, maybe you can feel that pull across the groins. Maybe you can feel a sense of compression around the sacrum or the lower back. Maybe you can feel, I can feel like the extension through the upper spine and some stretch opening across the shoulders, even the neck area. Now to tune in with a sense of your mood, how that is right now, because it's a very particular time of year. like I've noticed it's really changed over time. My relationship with this time of year, I used to, well, I'm not going to go into all details, but it can evoke all sorts of emotions this time of year, the end of year, or maybe you're spending time with the family, maybe you're on your own, all sorts of possibilities. So in some ways, it's quite an intense period. It's also, just to point out, it's a full moon today. I just saw the moon coming up, full winter moon, 27th of December. So we're gonna change the art. This is optional. So we need to, I've done this before with you, so extend your arms if you can above the head. You can actually actively extend the arms, but if you can rest in the sense of releasing the arms down, but actively extending. So we're not going to do this for very long. So that may or may not work for you. So it definitely intensifies the stretch through the upper back. It's a slightly more yang approach in that we're actively lengthening the arms. So I'm crossing my thumbs and gently pulling the arms, or the hands away from the top of the head. You'll find that intensifies the stretch along the sides of the body. If that doesn't work for you, that's fine. Another option would be just to fold the forearms and rest the forearms above your head. But I wanted to combine a little bit of active lengthening now. It's like a dynamic Supta Baddha Konasana. The sense of pulling away through the arms, like a sense of traction, pulling the arms out of the shoulders for like a minute or so. And while we're here, getting a sense of your changing experience, getting a sense of the breath. The inhale will intensify, especially if you breathe into the upper body. Inhale. Okay, from there, so very carefully release the arms again. I want you to bring the soles of the feet onto the floor. And we've been there for quite a while, so not being, quick to move. So you're going to move down towards your feet. I like to slide down, keep the head low towards the feet. And then I'm supporting the head on the bolster. And then I just push the bolster out the way. I'm coming into semi-supine. Take a moment there. What's interesting about this practice, and I really discovered this on a solitary retreat I did many years ago in Loka, which is our retreat center near Alicante, which is a cold place actually in the winter. It's quite high up, and I was doing a lot of yin yoga, and I noticed it generated a lot of like inner heat. So curiously, this practice can generate quite a bit of heat on the inside of the body. Who knows what that's about? So from there, turning to the one side, and we are, having said we're not going to do asymmetric, I want us to bring in the bolster again. So this is like the side version of the same pose. So it's sometimes described as sitting side saddle. So I've got my right leg on top of the left. You could do it the other way around. I'm bringing the left ribs into the bolster. If you want to have a higher raise, I'm going to actually put a brick underneath the bolster to get a little bit higher. And then I'm going to drop the lower ribs onto the bolster and then have some sort of cushion or brick to support the head. So the head feels like a continuation of the rest of the song. Where the ear pods keep dropping out, the AirPods. So you could also do it like that, where I'm supporting the head on the hand. And then I take my top arm over. So there's two, because I'm quite high with the support underneath the rib cage, I'm supporting the head on the hand. That's new, actually. That's a new way of doing it. And then I'm just resting the other hand over the top, the other arm over the top. Another way to do it would be to rest the side of the head onto the support and rest the top arm in the lower hand. like you make a like a little crook for your wrist. Yeah, so it's two options. So I'm going to go because I'm a bit higher. These airports, I'm going to go with the hand supporting the head. Now the idea is to lean and my body weight descend through the bolster. So I'm really leaning. One of the keys to this practice is learning to lean into gravity. You're really letting your body rest into gravity. You're letting gravity effectively do the work for you. You just set it up. And then it's like hanging out in the pose. The best way to describe it. You set it up. Once it's set up, you just hang out, let it happen. Emphasizing listening, receptivity, tuning in, not making too much effort. It's like a minimal amount of effort exploring more subtly what's going on in your body. With this position, I'm letting the hips really be heavy. So there's a sense of well, in my case, the outer left hip is really rooted to the ground. The left rib supported, head supported. So this is a lateral flexion or extension. It depends on which way you look at it. I suppose we're extending the top side of the body and flexing the underside. Tuning in with your breath, with each exhale, and sort of softening and engaging your awareness with your actual direct experience, just as it is now. Okay, from there, carefully swinging out. So you could, yeah, you don't need to come all the way up. You just swing round. I'm going to turn away from you. Maybe that'll be helpful to see the pose from the other side. So I'm supporting the ribs. As I said, because I've got my bolster quite high, I'm just going to support the head in the hand, the lower hand. My top arm I'm taking over and trying to rest it there. You let the arm be heavy and the hips grounded now. It's my right hip. My right arm, right hand supporting the head. I'm leaning into the bolster. So this is where a bolster is really useful, actually. This practice, yin practice, is probably the one reason it's worth having a bolster at home. And we're breathing here. So in theory, there's a little bit more space in the top chest. And it'll feel harder to breathe with the lower half of the body. I'm letting the feet and the legs be completely passive and heavy. And I'm encouraging a sense of releasing into gravity. So in some cases, like there might not be much happening. So one of the things you can learn to work with in this practice is practicing, cultivating sensitivity, cultivating more subtle awareness, and maybe just simply a sense of patience. Just, there's that image of, I used to find this really helpful. It's like the waiting for the bus posture. You just sit there waiting, you're just seeing what's happening, not like impatiently, but just quietly sitting, waiting, observing. Something's going to happen, maybe nothing's going to happen. There's a useful quality to be able to cultivate. Well, that's certainly for me, for the patience. You're doing a lateral flexion or extension, depending on how you look at it. Taking care that the neck feels as though it's a continuation of the rest of the spine, so you're not just letting the head hang in space. So do prop up the head one way or another on a cushion or on your hand. It feels like a continuation. Remember, the neck spine are the last 7 vertebrae of the spinal column, starting with L5, lumbar 5, sacrum, 5 lumbar, 12 thoracic, 7 cervical vertebra. And so from there, carefully turning towards the floor, or you could come up, just moving quite slowly. Like there's this image of cat-like movements as you come out, because they are deep stretches. Okay, so this is where, yeah, we're going to carry on. These poses do orientate a little bit towards the upper back. So I'd like you to make a pile, what I sometimes call a tower, if you can, with whatever you've got. You could just have the edge of a chair here as well. Like if you've got a chair at hand, we're going to do the shoulder hang, okay? So this is a classic for this kind of sequence. So I'm resting the elbows. We're going to do it twice. I'm resting the elbows on the support. And then the first position, I rest the forehead also on the support. And then I walk my knees back. You don't want to let the belly hang out too strongly. So I'm going to keep a sense of the belly drawing in. Well, not drawing in, but supported, cradled. Maybe even rolling the pelvis back. And the intention is to lean into the upper back. This will pull on the shoulders. Yeah, you can play with the pelvic position. If you feel like you want to let the pelvis roll forwards more, that's fine. Just be aware of what's going on in your lumbar. Breathing there. This is a pose that really works quite strongly. Quite is that quiet word appearing? So it just works strongly into the upper back, no question. I can feel that pulling around the tips of the shoulder blades, under the arm. We want to avoid creating any unnecessary unpleasant sensations in the body. Okay, so you're looking to do this as support. Another way of doing it would be to bring your knees further forward, so you're more like in a child's pose position with the lower body, and then supporting the head and the elbows. Okay, so let's come up for a moment. Take a pause there in sitting up, tuning in with your upper body. So we're focusing on the upper body to begin with the Supta Baddha Konasana, supine butterfly with the lateral extension flexion now with the upper back stretch. So the second time we're going to let the head hang through the space. Okay, so you hook up again the elbows. And if you can, let the head hang through. So ideally the head is not touching the floor. So you do need a tower that's sufficiently high. So the Your head can hang into space. Although, it's not the end of the world if your head is supported as well here. I would be, you could say it's a different pose. If it's really intense, it might even be better to support the head with another cushion. But obviously, let's intensify a stretch along the underarms. Again, it's adapted where your lower body is child's pose. Definitely milder that way. We're still letting the head hang through the arm. It's not resting on the support now. Connecting with the breath. As I said, you can do this with the elbows resting on a ledge, could be a chair, or the edge of a sofa, for example. A coffee table. Make sure you've got some padding under your elbows on a hard surface. Connecting in with the breath, hooking in your attention with the breath. So I wanted to do like a whole body practice. So we're not going to focus on the upper body or the lower body or twists or hips or spine. I wanted to do a little bit of everything, but it will move through phases. So the first phase of the sequence is the upper body, then we'll move more into the pelvis, the legs, moving down, the upper body to the lower body. So hopefully that will enhance a sense of grounding. But do feel free to come out. Yeah, I've gone for the slightly milder version where I'm in child's pose with the legs. So that might be way too long if you were doing like the full shoulder hang. So carefully coming up. And I'm going to move the support out of the way now for a few moments. And we're going to come into, I call this the cross. So it's like crossing the forearms or crossing the elbows in front of you. It's like you're giving yourself an embrace. Now just notice which of your arms is on top. So I've got my left arm on top. I then drop the elbows down and I'm going to drop my weight into the outer upper arm. So you want to be careful with this. It may be helpful to have some support for the forehead if the head doesn't come to the floor. And I'm separating my feet. Again, this is working into the upper arms, but from like a different way. It's more the outer upper arms rather than the underside of the upper arms. And you're letting your weight sink through. I do know that, depending on how your upper body is, the chest area, this could feel a bit awkward, but you can bring your arms higher so they're almost like in front of your shoulders or even throat area. So being aware of which of your arms is on top. This is not a pose you're going to want to spend ages in probably. Pretty intense for the outer arms, deltoids. See if you can breathe into it a little bit more. So you're releasing a little bit more. And then from there, whichever way is best to come out, you could wiggle your way out or roll onto your back. So being aware of which arm is on top, we're going to come all the way back up and then switch arms. Okay, so I'm now going to bring my right arm on top. You're like hugging a, so you can even get hold of, well, it depends on your flexibility, but you could get hold of the shoulder blades themselves. Like so it's a movement we do in shiatsu where you pull the shoulder blade away from the body. But once you come down, you release the arms to the floor, let your weight drop into the upper arm, and try and sink your weight into the upper arm. So it's like the technique here, I suppose, is one of trying to sink your weight into different areas of the body, allowing the stretch to penetrate in or down, in towards the bones as we work the connective tissue, ligaments, tendons, fascia, in a really slow way, sort of methodical, slow, restful way. So we're helping to free up like the knots in the body, sometimes called granthis in the yoga tradition. Granthis are like energetic knots. Leaning into our experience. Connecting with the breath. So obviously the breath different here. As we're in the prone, maybe it's even a bit awkward in the upper body. Breathe. And breathing in and breathing out. We are drawing myself in to the present moment experience. Feeling the contact with the floor, feeling the belly in contact with the floor, the legs, and feeling that stretch through the upper arms. So from here, once again, finding whatever way to come out. Another way to come out is to like roll round, to like come onto your back. That may work for you. Wriggle out. It's not the easiest pose to come out of. And then we'll come into all fours. Again, we can just take the brick out of the way and support. This is very simple. Cat cow, yeah. So exhale, emphasizing arching the upper back, extension, sorry, flexion. Inhale, extending through the upper back. Nothing really complicated here. So a cat cow, as it's called. But you can feel the palms grounded, feel the shins grounded. This is a move here which are our four-legged friends. I'm surrounded by cats and dogs, and well, not that many dogs actually, one dog. But they do this movement, right? And I think it's to help free up the upper back, shoulders, same as ours, really. You're opening the upper back, lengthening through the front body. Play with the roll of the pelvis. You're rolling it back as you exhale. Anteversion of the pelvis. Inhale, you're rolling it forwards. Retroversion. Okay. Going into Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so coming into a forward again. Sorry. Okay, so this one, this is quite can be quite fun. So I want you to thread your left arm underneath and come into quarter dog. So I'll just say that again. So I'm taking my left arm underneath and I'm resting the side of the head and shoulder into the floor. I'm using my right hand as support. So this may be enough, yeah, for some of you. So you can feel a little bit of lateral stretch, compression in the neck. Maybe that's enough. I think if you've got a neck injury or you're worried, concerned about your neck, then take it easy on this, right? But another way to, so if you want to go further, having said that, we can step out the right foot towards the left hand. So it's like you're almost trying to get hold of your right foot. And you're throwing more weight then into the left shoulder. Okay, so then I can then start to turn and even look up and take the right arm up. It's sometimes called outrigger pose, the quirky shape. Helps to stretch deep into the neck area. Unfortunately for us, the head is very firmly embedded or rooted to the shoulder. Very strong connection there. But it can, obviously, it's an area that can accumulate tension and blocks, knots. The neck area is a way of stretching into the neck area. If we're not going to spend ages here, so turning back towards the floor, you bring your right hand down, right leg down, unwinding for a moment, coming into cat cow, once or twice. And then from cat cow, I'm going to now take my right arm down, dropping the right shoulder to the floor, stepping my left foot out to the left, and maybe turning, taking my left arm up, breathing now. A sense of opening out the chest. If you're going into the full expression of the pose, otherwise we're just letting the weight drop into the outer right shoulder. So it's probably pressing in towards that acromion process. It's like the bony bit that sticks out over the top of the shoulder. Breathing now. Yeah, minimal amount of effort. We're just balancing now. So when you're ready, coming down. All fours into cat cow. Okay. So yeah, now we're going to move into the pelvis. So we're going to, yeah, maybe a bolster would be good to have here. Going to come into the sleeping swan, as it's called. So the bolster, we're now going to place lengthways along our space. And I'll do it on the right side first, just because I've got my right side facing you. So yeah, we know this pose. You slide your right shin forwards. You're looking to get external rotation on the right femur. And I'm supporting my belly and head, maybe forehead on the bolster. I want to wing out the elbows. Do you want to find a position that's comfortable for your neck? Actually, the head can be better when it's turned here. I've just got this issue. Yeah, maybe. I'm just going to keep it centered. So spreading the elbows. But also be down where you prop yourself up a little bit more actively on the forearms, if you prefer doing it that way, a more propped up position. So you could say the main focus or the main intention of this pose is to work down into the hip rotators. Allowing the breath to work for you, work with you. So you exhale, sense of releasing, softening. So you'll find that with the yin poses, well, if you get into them, that is, I mean, it doesn't always happen, but you'll find that it's like can get drawn in. There's a sense of sinking in and absorbing your awareness, your attention, sort of drinking the pose in. So maybe you've got quite a specific, well, I mean, typically with this pose, you get quite a specific sensation around the right buttock, that sensation of the hyena gnawing at your buttock. So you could use that as a focus, as long as doesn't feel excruciating. It's like you're turning towards the sensation. Like if it's really, really intense, I think it can be almost counterproductive because it's quite difficult to stay with it. So for that reason, it's good to use props. You back off a really intense experience here, intense sensation. And then from there, we're going to come up into the swan. So here I ground the palms. You could even have your hands into some bricks, actually, if you want to get a bit more height. And then it's like you prop yourself up on your arms. Obviously, this can create compression in the spine, especially the lumbar spine. So just being aware of how that feels on your lumbar spine. If it's too strong, don't do it. Like bring your hands further forwards, less intensity. If you enjoy this stretch for your spine, then you can even take the gaze up, extending through the neck as well. I'm not going to hold this for very long either. Okay, this is quite intense. So from there, we're going to swing forward slightly. This is sometimes called the mermaid pose. So I'm going to bring my weight down onto my right side. So I'm sinking towards my right. My right buttock is now on the floor. My right hand is on the floor or supporting. And I bend up the left leg, the back leg, and see if I can hook the foot into the crook of the elbow. So you get a good stretch into the left thigh, in my case. I'm even looking back. It resembles a mermaid, extending her tail out to one side, sitting on a rock, I suppose. Breathing there. Again, pretty intense thigh stretch. Up in and releasing down. I'm sure we could stay longer there. That feels so intense. Okay, now we're going to switch sides. So carefully coming around to all fours for a moment. If you want, now would be a time to do a dog pose, just to open the back of the legs. Optional. End of your dog pose.
Okay, then we'll switch side, coming down. So unfortunately, not going to. I don't know whether you're looking, but you can't see my left leg. But my left leg folded up underneath me. I'm going to use a brick to support my forehead. As I said, I think it's better to turn the head to one side actually for the neck. I'm winging the elbows out. I'm really letting myself, like the chest area, the belly, the upper body, sink into the bolster. Just sinking forwards, just like a forward fold. This pose. Over, you're folding over your folded leg. Again, allowing your body to arrive. Sometimes it takes like a half a minute or a minute to settle into the position, and then letting yourself sink with gravity. Noticing what is most immediately present in your awareness, sensations in the body or the skin, maybe a particular thought process or emotional process that's going on. So whatever's presenting, turning your attention towards it and being aware of that process unfolding in the present moment, just as it is. So moving towards your experience with kindness, with gentleness, no rush, accepting, we could say, accepting your experience. So we're going to transform this pose into the swan. This is called the sleeping swan. The swan is you take your arms to your sides, pushing up, doing the spinal extension. If you're looking on your neck, you can also look up. Being aware of any, yeah, I mean, yeah, I can feel that. I'm sure other people can, like compression in the lower spine. If it's too intense for you, the position is to just bring the hands further forwards. So you're in a more, well, in a less extended position. That's fine. You could even drop back down to prop up on a bolster. So that would be even milder. Yeah, and then from there, carefully releasing forwards. I know, releasing to one side. We're going to come into the mermaid pose. So I'm letting my left buttock sink, weight into my left hand, bending up the back leg, and hooking, if I can, the back foot into the right arm or right forearm. Gosh, that's really intense on this side. Wow. So this is working the hip flexor. So that's the front of the hip, thigh. breathing there. You can maybe look back. I've got my left buttock on the floor, bending up my back leg, my right leg. And I'm releasing. Okay, so I'm not going to spend ages there. Yeah, for some people that might be really more comfortable. Carefully coming round. We're going to take a dog stretch or just a leg stretch. You want to open out the back of each leg one by one, or both legs together. Okay, breathing there. Okay, so from there, yeah, we're going to do this one. So, sitting down with the feet in front of you. One more hip stretch. This is a classic, but I wanted to include it. So the left leg goes underneath, the right leg goes over the top. So we're going into shoelace. Shoelace with the legs, but I wanted to also include the arms. So we're going to bring the palms together into Namaste. Push the arms up and extend up, not really a yin pose. I'm pushing up from the sitting bones to the palms facing up towards the ceiling. It was like Parvatasana with the arms, shoelace with the lower body. And then from here, I'm going to turn out to the right. Okay, so my right leg's on top, coming into the shoelace twist. And then, yeah, we're going to stay there for a while. More restful. Sense of the spine centered in the vertical axis. And keeping the head centered in the same direction as the chest. Breathing now. Relatively quiet pose, releasing back to center. Unwinding the legs. Now my left leg is on top. You can wriggle to get more, as it were, seated in that. And then we're going to interlace the fingers, maybe the opposite cross on the index finger, take the palms up, extend up, growing your spine, growing towards the ceiling, through the sitting bones, all the way up to the palms. It's pulling up, slightly more active version of shoelace to begin with. And then from there, squeezing the elbows in, pulling up. From there, releasing wide, taking the arms wide as we come out into the shoelace twist. So you want to see if you can let your shoulder blades sink down away from the ears. Let the tops of the shoulders broaden. Distance between the shoulders and the ears. So I can probably feel weight going more into one buttock than the other. So really letting your weight sink into the sitting bones, rooting down, and growing your spine from there. Okay, I'm releasing back to center. And I allow you to come down onto your back. So I'm going to do a little bit of movement on the back. We did this a few weeks ago in relation to the core work. So bring your thighs in towards the chest for a moment, embracing your shins in a simple lying down, okay? Extending out the lower spine. Okay, then we're going to drop the arms down by the side. And then on the inhale, you take the arms above the head and the legs towards the vertical. So it's like an L shape. And as you exhale, you bring the arms back to your side, the legs folding, and then repeat that. So inhaling. So I did say there'd be a little bit of movement. I think this will help to mobilize the energy around the lower spine and the hips that we've just been working into. So as you exhale, you're dropping the arms by your side, the legs towards your chest. As you inhale, the L shape is called. A slightly more intense version is where you pick up the head towards your knees. You curl up on the exhale and inhale the L shape. So if you want to do a slightly more active version, so only if that feels okay on the neck, you pick up, but you're picking up the head towards your knees as you fold on the exhale. So like you're curling up into a ball. Next time we come into the L shape, stay there. And let's see if you can interlace the fingers and just make a pillow behind the back of the head. So you're keeping the legs active towards the vertical, engaging the legs. We're kind of yang legs. Okay, so you're engaging the legs to the vertical, elbows wide, turns broad across the chest. Breathe there, holding that position. I think sometimes I've done this in Pilates, right, where you do little circles with the legs, but we're just going to hold static and then releasing and embrace the shins again. But this time, head on the floor, softening the shoulders, softening the neck. Floating the eyes, releasing. Okay, then releasing, feet to the floor. One more slightly dynamic movement here. So soles of the feet on the floor, close to your buttocks, hands down to the floor as well. So we're going to do what's sometimes called the 6-point or the 6-phase bridge. So as you exhale, I want you to look through your legs and pick up your arms off the floor. As you inhale, you drop your arms back down and your head back down. As you exhale, you push up into the bridge. As you inhale, you take the arms above your head. As you exhale, you drop the pelvis. And as you inhale, the arms come back to your side. So that's one cycle, 6 movements. You might want to bring your knees, so your feet close to your buttocks. So exhale, you pick up the arms, look through the legs. Inhale, release down. Exhale, push up into bridge. Inhale, the arms above the head, neck soft. Exhale, release the pelvis, arms stay above the head. Inhale, arms to your side. We'll just do that a couple more times. I'll describe it one more time. Exhale, pick up, look through your legs. Inhale, release. Exhale, bridge. Inhale, arms above the head. Exhale, dropping the pelvis. Inhale, dropping the arms back. A couple more times at your own breath. Try to move the arms independently of the pelvis. It's like a lengthened out version of dynamic bridge. One more time. Don't worry if the choreography is not working out. What I wanted to do here was a dynamic bridge, essentially. And then bring your arms down by your side. Once again, embracing. Wow, it's just so cold, the air here. Okay, so embracing the shins and breathing there. And we're going to do, yeah, so I wanted to do, so this, I'm sure you won't have one of these handy, but if you have, so it's like a cork brick. So if you've got some bricks or ideally a cork brick, you want to lift the pelvis and place the brick underneath the sacrum. So if you don't have a cork brick, that's fine. You can use a pile of bricks or a pile of cushions, but I want you to come up into a more passive bridge supported. So your support is underneath the sacrum. Yeah, if you're lucky, you've got one of those cork bricks. They're sort of harder and more compact. Releasing the back of the neck. This helps to decompress the lumbar spine, helps to create a bit of space around the chest, helps to release the diaphragm, supposedly. So I wanted us to do a supported bridge for a few breaths. Yeah, ideally you got one of these cork bricks. If you don't have one, then give yourself a gift this year. They're really useful for this, but just for this pose alone, they're really useful. Sometimes it comes like a compressed foam, like harder foam, but they can be really beneficial to help decompress the lower spine. This is an area that really suffers in our bodies, like the lower back, for all sorts of different reasons, but essentially sort of, you could say bad posture, not being aware of that area and using it wisely. So let's see how we get on with this. So I'm gonna just make sure the brick is underneath the sacrum, and I'm gonna try to lift one leg at a time towards the vertical. So if this doesn't work for you, that's fine. Then don't do, and then try and bring the other leg up. So coming into Viparita Karani over the brick or the pile of cushion. And then from there, bringing one leg down, the opposite leg, the other leg, and releasing the pelvis down. Once again, last time, embracing the shins towards you, but your head stays on the floor. Okay, so we're going to come into a little sequence of taking the legs wide. So I'd like to come up and sit up. So we've kind of spent most of the time in this class lying down or being in the sort of horizontal position. So we're going to do a little bit of seated work. So yeah, I'm going to get a bolster. Again, comes in useful depending on your flexibility in front of me. I want us to extend the legs out as just in a simple going wide position. Okay, Upavista Konasana. If you're really struggling to get like a sense of forward movement, you can also put some sort of padding underneath your sitting bones, like a cushion, just to bring a little bit more height underneath the sitting bones. And that'll just naturally throw your weight forwards. Okay. So we'll bring the palms together, Namaste. Once again, we'll do a slightly active beginning. So interlacing the fingers, pushing the palms away and reaching up. So you're getting a sense of length. I'm extending out through both legs very lightly, and then I'm going to reach forwards. And at some point, I'm going to release the hands and come into a simple, well, not simple, a simple forward fold, whereby it would be great to get to rest the head on something. Okay, so if the floor's miles away or kilometers away, then you're going to need to bring the floor up. Okay, so this is where the bricks can be helpful again. And again, you're just hanging into this pose. So I can feel that pulling through the inner groins, but from the feet or the lower leg all the way up to the groins. And I'm allowing the upper body to be in flexion. This is a pleasantly symmetric pose. You're working both sides of the body. Even though one side of the body may feel very different. And again, letting yourself arrive into the shape. It may take half a minute or a minute. And I quite like to have the feet gently in the vertical. Sense of sustaining the feet in the vertical, not without being really active in the legs. Connecting with the breath. You can soften, even though you're working the legs, if you can soften the hands, fingers, palms. Another position for the arms is resting the hands onto the lower legs, or the forearms onto the lower legs. And go from there. This feels like a pose you could probably easily spend 10, 15 minutes actually if you got into it, right? Just resting into it. But we're going to move on. So I'm going to come up very slowly to the vertical. And then I'd like us to come into the lateral version. So this is the photo that I use a lot in my poster. So it's like I'm going to fold the right leg in in my case, it's fine to do your left leg. That's fine. I mean, I think this is my easier side. Okay. And then what you do is you lean out towards the straight leg. So I'm leaning out. I'm just going to prop myself up on my forearm and hand. Obviously, you're more flexibility. You may well take hold of your straight leg foot or even take the bolster away. So I'm coming into a lateralization. You could also do that. We did this earlier on, right? Where you just rest the top arm over the head, like you hang it over there, like a kind of hanging a coat on a coat hanger, just letting your, the word in English is drape. You just let your arm drape over your head. Try to find a way of just propping up the top arm. And you'll feel it pulling down strongly into the lower waist area, this pose. And it might be an area that's quite tender, quite sore. It's the famous quadratus lumbarum, which is like a square-shaped muscle that runs off the lower ribs to the top of the pelvis, and it can often be implicated in lower back sort of distress, lower back pain, lower back grievances, if you like. Okay, so it might not look particularly dramatic, but it might feel quite dramatic, okay, on that area. Okay, we're not going to spend ages here. I mean, I found that really strong. So just floating back up to the vertical, let yourself center for a moment. I'm going to I'm going to extend my right leg out, fold up the opposite, switch sides. I'm going to take the bolster across. Really useful if you're not feeling particularly bendy this evening. And I'm going to lean out. So you could extend up to begin with and then lean out towards your straight leg side, okay? So depending on your body, this side may feel easier, may feel harder, more rigid, less rigid. Your top arm can stay down, your opposite arm can stay down, or you can make it into like as it were, a top arm and take it up and over, looking to drape, like looking to hang it over the head. What we're trying to often do in yin poses is find a way of propping up the body in a like effortless way. I mean, in some ways, it's quite a cheeky yoga practice. It's like you're trying to find ways to prop the body up in the least amount of effort. It's like trying to do the least amount of work to get an effect of, often it's a stretch or a traction or a compression. It's going to be one of those. But to get to sort of solicit or elicit the effect in the body, so you're trying to do that as effortlessly as possible. Tuning in with the sensations. I've just got this like flow of sensations coming out of the lower back, particularly on my left side. So I'm folding to the right, so I'm noticing it more on the opposite side. The way that I'm stretching, but it's going to be different. Everybody's going to have their own particular pattern of sensations in the body. Breathing here. Okay, so from there, really moving slowly, yeah? So that quadratus lumbarum, sensitive area, that lower back area, floating back up for a moment. And then we're going to come into another lying down position. So I want you to bring your bolster long ways now. It's like one of my favorite poses, actually. So I'm coming off the support, and then so we started off with this where you sit side as like you're sitting sideways, but you've got the bolster coming out from your side there, and then you turn. We've done this before. You turn towards the bolster. So you come into what's called a prone twist. Yeah, so I'm going to turn my head to the opposite way to the legs. I'm going to spread the elbows, and I'm just again hanging out there, spreading the elbows. This should feel really restful now for the lower back and the spine in general. Feeling the breath. I think this contrasts really well with the last pose that we've just done. Feeling the breath in the belly. Again, letting the head be heavy, the legs be heavy, the arms be heavy, spreading the elbows out. Really, a bolster really helps here in terms of propping up the underside of the body. And then carefully from there, so I'm going to come right. You don't need to come all the way up. You can just like do this thing, the cat move, coming up to all fours, and then you swing the legs to the other side. So you stay close to the floor. I'm just folding my legs to turning the head away from the leg. That doesn't work for your neck. Turn the head center, or even turn the head in the same direction as the leg. The main thing is to prop up now. That's you spread at your elbows. You're opening up that space between. And let's go to the benefit of having the spine less vertical spine, pressing the spine into I remember reading this right. The spine really lengthens out. Again, you can stay fairly close to the floor. We're going to come into child's pose, but we'll come into the child's pose with the wide legs. You can use the bolster and just rest there with the head centered, legs In child's pose, you can separate the knees. Feeling the breath and the belly moving against the support. Sense of hugging the support. So one of the benefits of having this contact with the front of the body and the support, it's like a hug. You're hugging, effectively, is that it helps to relax the diaphragm, release tension in the front of the body. It helps to move to the balance, sympathetic, parasympathetic, towards the relaxation uh, response rather than the alert anxiety response. So one good reason for lying on the front of the body to help stimulate that shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Okay, so I wanted to see how we're doing. Wow. Yeah, so I want us to do a legs up the wall position, and obviously you're going to need a wall to do that, and the bolster. I'm just going to see if I go off screen, if I go to this corner of the room. So do remember when you set up the legs up the wall, Viparita Karani, you want to put the bolster about a palm distance from the wall. So the bolster doesn't go right into the wall. There's a gap. There's a gap between the wall and the bolster. I think this is going to work. And then you get into it by sitting sideways. So I've got a gap between the wall and the bolster. I'm sitting sideways and I swing round. So the sacrum is closer towards the wall. The pelvic crest is on the support, and I'm leaning the legs into the wall. Okay, ideally, you bring your buttocks into the wall, but it's not essential. So you can use your elbows to come in. So the bolster doesn't necessarily go into the small of the back. It may do a little bit. It doesn't go into the lower back. So there might be a bit of wriggling, a little bit of faffing around to get into that. But I'd like to find your way into legs up the wall. I'll just let you take your time with that. We're going to spend about 5 minutes here once we set it up. And this is going to be the rest. Okay, so if you're feeling really like you need to be lying down, then we'll go from here into lying down. Otherwise, we'll go from here into sitting. Okay, but you can come to that in a moment. First of all, get yourself set up in Viparita Karani. So this has got the benefit of the lymphatic drainage from the legs, circulation back to the main body, to the torso. You feel like a bit of a relief for the legs. Doesn't always work out that way, depends on your circulation. Sometimes you're going to feel a bit uncomfortable in the legs. You can even get pins and needles. That's happened. Like a sense of the circulation, yeah, for whatever reason. I wouldn't like to say why. But in theory here, we're getting a sense of relief. The legs resting high, low body low. The lymph, as we know, constantly draining back to the heart area, be reincorporated into the bloodstream. Lymph forming like the basis of blood, like the most liquid part of blood. So the arms, you can have the arms as we started out the session in the T shape, or if you prefer, I quite like to rest the head actually into the hands, and then like I'm elbows wide, head support. So I'm making a pillow with the hand. For me, this also works to help to decompress the lower spine. You're letting your bodies come really as much as you can into a sense of effortless stillness. You might find there's a sort of sense of restlessness bubbling up. I was just talking to a friend yesterday. Uh, he was being described as like having I forget the expression in Spanish, but it's like basically, never been able to sit down. It's like really restless, and then actually he's just got work to do. So it's a bit unfair. So yeah, it's like, but there is sometimes we can find ourselves just moving right from one thing to another. It's really helpful to have a pause. Ideally, we do that every day, at least for a period or several times a day, just a pause. It's tradition of sit. Oh, just gonna switch earphones. Yeah, we have this tradition of sitting down for a cup of tea in England. Okay, yeah, I've switched to the microphone on the laptop. Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to stay there longer, huh? But otherwise, I'd like you to let your knees drop towards your body, just in your own time. And then you can roll to one side, just really taking your time. So we're going to set ourselves up into meditation pose. Okay, so I'm just going to get myself a blanket because it really is outrageous. It's like the house is not small. So I'm just going to set myself up, and you set yourselves up into a meditation pose. I'm going to get a cushion for meditation, a blanket. We're going to do a practice called Karuna Bhavana. So Karuna is translated as compassion. So compassion is not, as one of my teachers was pointing out, it's not pity. Okay, so it's not poor me or poor them, what a shame. It's not that. Okay, it's more, in a way, it's more generous and so I suppose less cynical. Um, more precise, you could say. Okay, so make sure you're going to be warm enough. I'm going to do a 3-stage practice. So this is a stage, it's a practice, often it's done in 5 stages, but we're going to do it in a sense more like a practice of radiating our awareness out. So the image is one of your heart like a sun. A sense of like letting the quality of awareness, kindness, generosity, compassion flow
through you. So it's not even ours in a sense. It's there as a quality. You could say it's the inherent quality in the universe. We could affirm that. There is compassion. And we're going to allow it to flow through us to, in a sense, bathing in that radiance, that light of compassion. And it may just be very faint. It may just be a very faint glimmer, subtle. So you don't, it doesn't need to be dramatic, cosmic, or anything like that. And particularly, karuna is associated with the kindness in relation to difficulty or suffering or pain, loss. So it's when loving kindness meets difficulty or meets pain, meets suffering, or even like a difficult mental state. And we just bathe our experience in kindness. So we're going to start off with ourselves, then we're going to move to those of us that are, as it were, in the session now, and then we'll just let it flow out into the universe, okay? So I'll just have a moment to recap those 5 dimensions of awareness, specific sensations in your body, whole body awareness, and being aware of the effect of that yin practice on your psychophysical being. So hopefully it's ironed out a few aches, pains, knots, restrictions in the body. Being aware of your emotional tone, sort of like the inner landscape of your experience. The weather. And then being aware that your experience is one of change, flux, and being aware of the breath. So with the breath, so drawing into your experience. I'm going to move into the first stage of this practice. In the first stage of this practice, we're going to bring compassion, quality of compassion towards this person, as in me, I, oneself, whatever you're feeling, being willing to embrace that experience with kindness, with a sense of, could even say playfulness, joyfulness, ease, even if it's uncomfortable, unpleasant, disagreeable. Remembering to soften the body as you move towards your experience. Checking you're still letting go. We're going to move into the second stage. We're going to bring into our awareness those of us that have joined the session. Maybe been aware. There's 6 of us, each in our own spaces, connected through this magical process of the internet, somehow coming together through time and space. And just wishing each one of us well, whatever difficulty we're facing, may we have strength and patience to work with that. We have Sandra, June, Johanna, by Maitri, Sue, each of us in our own places. Each one of us be able to overcome difficulty with patience and kindness. Moving into the third stage now, this Karuna Bhavana. So we're going to allow our imagination to expand, our awareness to expand. So being aware of all the people in the building, where you are. Being aware of the people in your area, your neighborhood. Wherever they are, may they be able to overcome difficulty, face their suffering with kindness, with patience, with strength. So you can just allow people that you might know to pop into your mind, to sort of float up in your awareness, wishing individuals well. You can also take your awareness into spaces around you, the town, city, wherever you are. May all beings in all directions, above, below, to the sides, in front, behind, may they all be able to overcome difficulty, suffering, through patience, kindness, wisdom. Resting back, if necessary, into your own physical experience of the body, direct experience, whatever's happening, embracing your experience as wholeheartedly as you can, with kindness, with gentleness. Expanding your awareness outwards, wherever there are beings, may they be well, free from difficulty. May they find a way to happiness, freedom from suffering. In the next few moments, we're going to bring this session to a close. Just like you to thank you for coming along. Thank you for supporting the classes this year. And look forward to seeing you next year, 2024. Just when you're ready in your own time, gently closing the session. Thank you. And as I say, Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye, Jean. Thank you.
Bye. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
To all of you.
And Sudaka. Oh, well, you know.
Take care.
Yeah, and you. Hopefully I'll see you in the new year.
Great.
Bye.